Welcome to the show, Josh. I am really, really excited for this conversation because if you've been in my audience, everyone knows that I teach quizzes and I say to use Interact Quiz as the main place to host your quiz because it is so many reasons, but it's user friendly. I love the data. I love the metrics, everything. So to have you here is such an honor.
Thanks for having me. I
Yeah.
mean, it wouldn't be possible without all of our partners like yourself helping bring it to customers. So I appreciate it.
I want to dive into like all things podcasting quiz, but where did the brainchild Interact come from? Because it's been around for a while. Like I used it, I think 5 or 6 years ago already, I started using it. So it's been around for a minute.
It's been around for 12 years now. So it's it's over a third of our lives for myself and my co-founder, coming up on half. So yeah, long time. It came from just right place, right time. My co-founders and I were doing agency work for small businesses back in LA at UCLA when we were going to school. And one of the clients requested that we build a quiz. We built that quiz. The engagement, like you mentioned, the metrics off the charts. We'd never seen anything like it. We were building websites for people, and you know how websites are. Typically, it's like a lot of bounces. You don't really know who's on the site. We put a quiz on. All of a sudden, the same client is getting leads. They're getting information about who's on the site. They're learning all this stuff. It's converting into sales. And we were like, well, that's crazy. We got to build something for that. So at the time, there was nothing. There was zero quiz builders. We were the first one. And so we built it, and it's been 12 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So what makes a quiz? I mean, clearly I'm such a big fan, but what makes it so much more powerful as a lead magnet than say like a checklist or even maybe like a private podcast or something like that?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the user involvement. Like the person taking the quiz gets to be part of the conversation, and you can also answer a question for them in a way that's truly personal. And more and more, I think people want answers that are just for them. Like they're not necessarily satisfied with like, oh, here's a piece of information that applies to everybody. Let me do the work of applying it to my situation. They'd rather have you do that. But the problem is, you can't do that as a business owner or as a marketer. You can't be answering questions all day long. You just wouldn't have time to do anything else. So then the quiz, the ones that I've seen work really well, replaces that conversation that you would be having with your audience over and over and over again, where they're like, hey, what's the best workout routine for me? Hey, what's the best diet for me? Hey, what's the best career? What should I study in college? All that kind of stuff, where it's like you need to know something about the person.
Yeah.
Those are the cases where I just see quizzes absolutely doing well, and also just being a double-sided benefit.
I agree. And that's just it. I want to say that from a standpoint of being an entrepreneur or a podcaster or anything like that, the data that we glean from the results, and I call them buckets, but essentially, right, the buckets that they fall into results and how that can shape our marketing message. It can shape episode topics that we, lean into, our offers. There's so much interesting data in there that I just love to have my clients lean into. And that's a really big piece that I love about it. Cause I think for so long, people have talked about this ideal customer and it's like, yeah, but there's nuances. There's nuances within that. And a quiz allows you to really figure out what those nuances are, I think. So
Yeah, and I think especially now, like you have to break things down further.
yeah.
People are not interested in connecting the dots for you and then
Hmm.
also paying you money. They need you to connect the dots,
Hmm.
and if you don't do that to a level that's satisfying to them, then they're just not going to give you the time of day. They're not going to give you any money. And at this point, 2025, like the stinginess of spending money is all time high. Like you can look at
Yeah.
the consumer sentiment report is at an all time low. Like people feel the worst about the economy
Mhm.
that they have since we started tracking it in 1980. And they're not going to just give you money because you're like, oh, I roughly help with this. It has to be so targeted and specific that it just immediately makes sense and they don't have to think about it. Then it's working better than ever. Like our customers this year are having more success than they've ever had in the past, but it's because they're doing that.
Okay, that's amazing. I'll share a little thing that my client shared with me this morning. So she launched her quiz in April. She's kind of got like one big digital course, launched it in September. She had a 77% revenue growth. And I believe almost 75% who signed up for her course came in through the quiz funnel.
Wow. That's incredible. That's like very good. And it's so cool because when it lands, like it works like that. And that's honestly, 12 years, very long time to be working on anything, especially software. And those stories are the ones where I'm like, that's why we do this. I'm a business owner, you're a business owner, people are listening, business owners, you get a lot of negative feedback. But when you hear stories like that, you're like, yep, perfect. That is exactly what we hoped would happen. And that's
Mhm.
also what lights us up. We're like,
Mhm.
we're here
Yeah.
to we're here to help small business owners grow like that. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I more will be coming, trust me. So, talk to me a little bit about how you see podcasters using a quiz and, what's been beneficial for them.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways. I would say the most common way is as like a follow on of podcast episodes for lead generation. So basically converting listeners into leads. Maybe you'll mention the podcast, the quiz during the podcast. Maybe you won't, but it's at least in the show notes where you'll have a quiz that relates to the topics that you're talking about. People can take that. They go through the quiz. They opt in at the end. So that's the primary way. The secondary way that I've seen people use it as like a playlist recommender. So, you can recommend a list of episodes to get started with for brand new listeners. So I'd say it's probably like the 80-20 rule, like 80% are using that first method and 20% are doing the playlist kind of operation. But they both work well. It's just the first one where it's like converting existing listeners. That's where you have like this low hanging fruit from what I've seen because maybe somebody's been listening for a year and they just need like something easy and light and fun, but also helpful to convert them. And the quiz is kind of the perfect thing for that.
I love it. So the way I teach it is we drive people to like a playlist, but there's so much more that we give them than just the playlist. Sometimes it'll be like a journal prompt or an email list growth strategy or something. And then we actually move them into a nurture sequence that eventually sells them a product. And that's been working really, really well. And so we can like banter on that on your show for sure. But that's been really fun. And to see those really high conversion rates, which I'd love to hear from you. Like, talk to us a little bit about metrics. Like, what are good metrics from, somebody starting to completing or just any of them? I'm also a metrics person, so give it to me. I love it.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, what I always like to go with as far as like if you're measuring your own success is benchmark against whatever you were doing before because it
Mm.
does vary a lot depending on like how much is your product and who are you selling to, that kind of stuff. And so going off the general averages can be tough. But if you have a benchmark of like, okay, I had a previous PDF download or a free course that was my main opt-in to get people into my funnel, and that was converting at 6%, and then the quiz converts at 12, well, that's double, right? But the overall average, and this is like it's a weirdly consistent number because when we built that first quiz for the client back in 2012, his quiz converted at 40%. So 40% of the people that started taking it went through, entered their email at the end to get their results. Today, Interact quizzes have been viewed 1.3 billion times, and we've generated 100 million leads, and it's
Wow.
still a 40% average conversion rate. So it's enough of to I guess about a seventh of the population of the world has seen an Interact quiz, and the conversion has stayed the same. So that's the overall like start to finish is 65%. So if you start taking it, you get to the end, and then about 40% of people on average when they see a quiz they'll click on it to take it. So good metrics, and a lot of people don't use quizzes for leads, which is why the 100 million doesn't quite back out to those other metrics. But even if you're using it just for an engagement play or for recommending products,
Mhm.
it's a great way to do conversions. rough numbers in terms of like on the e-commerce side, if you are recommending products directly in the results, roughly 8 to 10% of
Nice.
people that get those recommendations make a purchase from the quiz. So those are like the high level numbers. But like you mentioned, that client, it's just because those are the averages doesn't mean that there aren't some people that have like an 80% conversion rate and it just absolutely
Yeah.
crushes it. And it also doesn't mean that there's a lot of people where it just doesn't quite align, typically because the audience match with the quiz, the research isn't there to quite
Yeah.
line it up. That's usually when it doesn't do well, and then you'll have like 0% conversion.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love all those metrics. So a couple things. One, I want to talk about like what mistakes people are making when it comes to quizzes, but you really talked specifically to one, which is I spend so much time with my clients at the very beginning. I mentioned those buckets. I'm like, we spend so much time figuring those out before we even dive into the questions, the results page, like anything. And that's why we're seeing these high conversion rates. But and I have people come to me being like, oh, well, I had a quiz. I'm not sure. It kind of flopped. Actually, a lot I hear that. So where are they going wrong? Do you think? What do you see?
Yeah, well, thanks for doing that because that's what needs to get done. I would say 100% of the time, I've never seen it not be this when people complain like, "Oh, my quiz flopped." They did no research. They have no idea what their audience wants from them. They don't know what the results are. Oftentimes these days they're using AI to generate the
Mhm.
quiz and then it flops. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously. I think the two things that you have to do is one, you have to know what the results are going to be at the end. So either what are the archetypes, if it's going to be that kind of quiz, what are the personality types, or what are the levels if you're doing some sort of assessment or diagnostic, and do those levels actually speak to where your audience is actually at, and it has to tie back to their real life and be portrayed in their actual situation. And then the second piece is you have to know what framing, what messaging, what positioning of the quiz title is actually going to speak to what your audience cares about
Mhm.
enough for your audience to take action, because they have to take action to take the quiz. And if those two things aren't in place, it doesn't matter. Like the quiz concept itself, and perhaps there was a time when like you could get away with a, I don't know, less thought out quiz. From my end, where I see the data, that's actually not true. There was never a time when that was the case. And so I think a lot of the people that have kind of a bad taste in their mouths about quizzes put zero effort into it. They're like, oh, quiz, I'll spin one up, launch it. There's no audience research. Really, a quiz is like it's like a employee for your business that helps guide people to the right offer, the right solution for whatever their problem is. And can you imagine hiring an employee that you train zero amount and then you're like, oh, they didn't do their job? And you're like, well, no, duh. Like, you can't just hire somebody and expect them to know everything about your business and how to help your customers if you didn't train them at all. And so, I'm kind of upset about it at this point because we get a lot of flack from people of like, oh, quizzes
Um,
don't work for us. They don't work for me. 100% of the time I look at it, no effort's been put into it, no customer research, no customer conversations, no work put into the messaging or the framing. And those are the people that are just phoning it in anyways with the rest of their businesses,
yeah.
approach. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're not gonna make it one way or the other. And the quiz is just like a sign that like you're not really running your business very effectively.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is why I have my clients spend so much time on just those things. It's like the bookmarks. It's the customer buckets and then the offer and then connect
Yep.
using the quiz to connect the two. So I love it. That's so much fun just to hear you like say these things and confirm them. And I agree with you. I'd actually love to hear your thoughts on people using AI and to create these quizzes because same thing. I definitely have people come to me and ask like, why would I pay you to help me put together a podcast centric quiz funnel when, my Claude over here can help me do that? Like, what do you know about that in what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, we have like an AI built into our product that spins up like a draft of a quiz. So basically, like we have a lot of templates. So it's essentially a template that's specific to your use case and your business. But just like people used to copy paste our templates and those flopped, now they copy paste the quiz and that flops. So it's like AI is just like more personalized template. But the point of a template is not to use the template. The point of a
Yeah.
template is to get you going in the right direction. So you don't have to be like, oh, how should I, set up the elements or how many, questions should be in there or whatever. Maybe it gives you a baseline for that, so then you can go back through and make it your own. But the same people that were the ones complaining about costs and copying and pasting templates before are the same people just using AI out of box and complaining now. And like, I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like I very much care about small businesses,
Mm.
because I have one, and it's been a huge positive in my life to have one, and be able to work for myself and be able to express creatively in that way. And so I care a lot about the people that run these businesses, and that's why I'm so passionate about kind of pushing them in a way where I'm like, hey, you got to get your stuff together, because this actually never worked. And the idea that you thought it ever worked was because somebody, told you that you could just copy and paste templates, probably one of those crazy influencer people on the internet. And it doesn't work. You have to actually do the work, understand who your people are and why they care about the topics that you're caring about, so that you can connect your expertise to their real life. And
Mhm.
if you don't do any of that, like, I don't care what products you use or what templates you get or what strategies you try, it's never going to work. And so that's where I really care about this, and I'm trying to push people, because like there's a whole generation of entrepreneurs who I don't know if they're going to come back. They died in the last 5 years because they were reliant on Google traffic and
Mm.
old school ways of running businesses. Now you got to show up different. You have to do this work. You have to do this work not just with quizzes, but also with how you frame your podcast episodes and what topics you're talking about. It can't be generic. It has to be really specific, and unless everybody kind of gets up to speed, they'll just be phased out. They'll become dinosaurs, because the next generation, I'd say like people age 30 and under, just get it right off the
Mhm.
bat. They're like, yeah, of course, there's 60,000 creators in my space. I have to be unique. Whereas the previous generation, kind of lazy, and they just wanted to like be like, oh, well, I'm great, so everyone should see that I'm great. And that's just not true.
Okay, Josh, you must think I'm younger than 30 because you're generalizing me in your group.
Well, that's why I enjoy these conversations, because I just chatted with somebody that's like, I forget how old they were, close to 40, and they said the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, obviously, like
Just had to
have
tease you.
the ones that have gotten with it, it's great to talk to you, because like you've got it right. It's like, yeah, you got to do this stuff. And I think generally though, that group complains a lot and doesn't do a lot
Mm.
of this stuff, and needs to get with it.
Yeah. So, it's all good. Just had to tease you a little bit on that one. But I would love to hear I don't know if this is something you not know or not, but where are the best places to promote your quiz? Like what are we knowing where most of the quiz traffic is coming from when somebody does an entire promotion with their quiz? Like what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, when we run surveys, the main thing is Instagram. It seems to be kind of like the funnel through which a lot of people send the traffic. Even if it comes from a podcast or from a podcast guest experience, sometimes they'll send it through Instagram first, like, hey, follow me on
Mhm.
Instagram. And then they'll do reels not promoting the quiz directly, but talking about the concepts of the quiz and then using ManyChat to send into the quiz.
Yeah.
That seems to be the number one thing right now. And then the old school way, which still works, is like having it on your website. So then when people do go to your site, they can see it there and convert through that. So it tends to be like Instagram one, and then website two, and then podcast, YouTube, speaking appearances, anywhere you're showing up funnels through one of those two. So it either funnels through your Instagram or your website, or you can go direct to the quiz if the context makes sense. And those are generally the ways that I'm seeing people scale up quizzes in terms of converting those audiences into leads.
How about ads? What do you think about running ads to quiz?
It can work from what we see on the back end. It's like very volatile. Sometimes somebody will dial it and they'll have a quiz that generates 20-cent leads or 10-cent leads and it scales up like crazy. And then it stops like very abruptly. And then they'll try five other quizzes and none of them will work. And so it seems to be more of a, it kind of can go one way or the other. I'd say the best approach that I've heard there is once you dial in organically, like the approach of your quiz and the framing and all that, then spin those up as ads. And
Mhm.
that makes more sense to me. I think that same group that phones it in on like just using the AI quiz also is the group that just wants to put together a generic ad, even though they never run ads. And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I made a quiz and I have an ad. It should work, right? So I think unless you can prove it with your organic audience that it converts at the rate that you want, then I don't necessarily recommend going straight to ads unless you're somebody that has like a very strong ads presence. Then it's like, great, go for it.
Well, I will just something to add to that conversation. So I agree with you. I think it is so great to get it really dialed in organically. And my clients who have had better CPLs on the quiz than they have with like checklists or PDFs or things like that. So I will say when you do get it working right, it has in my world at least worked really well. So, but that's so helpful to know. What exciting or fun or unique things are you seeing people do with quizzes these days? Or do you have any case studies that you could share?
Yeah, I think that so there's one case study from earlier this year that I think is super cool. It's from creator. Her name is Advice with Erin, or the brand name is Advice with Erin. Her name's Erin, and it's a career archetype quiz or a career aptitude
Mm.
quiz. And just like we were talking about earlier, a lot of people were DMing Erin, and she came on our
Yeah.
podcast, this is why I know the story, but they were DMing her being like, hey, I feel like something's off. Like, I feel like I'm not doing the right job, and
Mhm.
it's really bothering me. And that's like what you want to look for. Like they ask you a question, usually in like a private setting or a DM,
Mhm.
because they're a little bit embarrassed to ask it publicly. And it's like, and it's really bothering them. Like it really, really irks them. That's when you know you have a great quiz. And then, just like you said earlier, she built those archetypes and spent like, I think, years making the archetypes that were like the results of that quiz, and then worked backwards to figure out the right questions to ask and put a ton of thought into that. Like it's a longer quiz. It has 30 questions, but
Okay.
each question she, worked on the language, the specific language to make it like really both resonate with people and also help like guide in the right direction. So very specific language. And earlier this year, it had already brought in 140,000 leads from primarily Instagram and TikTok. And it's still going. So that's a cool example. And then twice this year, I've interviewed Naomi, who's the agency owner that built a few quizzes now for NASA, and they use them in-person experiences. So like at Comic-Con, they had a quiz that was like, what role would you play in a NASA mission? And then that caught on and has been now being used at air and space museums throughout the country to help mostly younger people, but also, people of all ages connect with these missions and like see what role they would play. And similarly to kind of what we've been talking about, Naomi ran a double-sided study there. So
Mm.
figuring out how the audience likes to think about space travel and the words that they use.
Yeah.
So she did a lot of workshops with them to figure out the right way to ask questions and things like that. And then also she worked with employees at NASA to figure out how they talk about it. So then both sides feel connected in that quiz, and I thought that was a great way of bringing an idea to life.
Mm.
And that's what I'm talking about here with like phoning it in. It's like if you're not doing that stuff now in
Mhm.
2025, your quiz will just, no one's interested. They can go talk to ChatGPT
Yeah.
and
Yes.
it will make up a quiz that's generic. And I'm sure there's a bazillion space quizzes out there, but the one that Naomi and the team at NASA worked on is different and hyper engaging because they went through that level, like taking it down to the word level.
Yeah.
And I think both of those are perfect examples of
Mhm.
like the type of experience that's really resonating with people in 2025 that's just so different than,
Mm.
I think the expectations that people have coming into making a quiz where they're like, it's just for fun. It's like, no, no, no. It's actually like a very advanced experiential marketing funnel
Mhm.
that it can't be treated lightly.
Yes. Okay. There's something also that I want to talk about. Well, just share is like the longevity of a quiz within your business is amazing. Like you mentioned, Advice with Erin launched it at the beginning of the year. It's still running strong. Amy Porterfield, when she ran hers for like over 2 years and it was strong the whole time. My client, Savannah, who I shared had a 77% revenue increase. We dropped it in April. She launched in September. Like, that is also why I love a quiz because it can just like run in the background of your business, bringing in leads, consistently engaging people and nurturing them. And so love it so much. Okay. So why interact over Jotform, Typeform, other platforms?
Yeah, so we built ours, like I said, from the very beginning to be a quiz platform, and it's one of those things that's a bit hard to explain unless you're
Yes.
technical, but the difficulty of building a quiz platform instead of a survey platform is like more than 10x. And so if you are going to try to build a quiz on a survey platform, then you are the one that has to do the 10x work to get it to be a quiz. And so it's very much more difficult to create. And it's also a clunky experience for the person taking the quiz. And the way the pricing is set up, ours is set up to scale to help you get leads. But like Erin said this on our podcast, so I'm not outing anything that she didn't say publicly, but Jotform wanted to charge her 10K a year for the quiz that she has. Our highest price point is $1,500 a year. So it's also 10x cheaper once you get to scale. So better experience.
Yeah.
It's integrated with all the email softwares directly. None of those other ones are, especially if you use Kit or Flowdesk, which are the biggest ones that people use. Those softwares do not integrate directly. So you got to use Zapier. Then you got to pay for Zapier. Then you got to set up Zapier. And so it's just a pain. Even when you compare ours to Google Forms, which is totally free to start, once you pay for Zapier, it's going to be the same price or more expensive. And you have to work with Zapier. So
Yeah.
it's integrated directly. It's purpose built as a quiz maker, and it saves you time, and it's a better experience for the quiz taker. Those are the things that are hugely different, and it's extremely hard to do. Our engineers, their pedigree and background is from big, highly successful tech companies before they joined us, and that's the level of effort that you got to put into this.
Okay, well, I do work with so many people creating quizzes. Most of them do interact because I recommend it, but I have seen the other ones and I couldn't agree more. The big reason I love Interact is it's so easy for me and my clients who are not here to become tech experts to go in and create a beautiful quiz and use it and integrate it and all of the things. So I will commend you on that. And I will keep singing its praises always as I build my business. So, Josh, where can people learn more about what you guys have going on? Is there anything exciting that you guys are working on behind the scenes?
Yeah, yeah, we have a public product roadmap that's it's either out now or coming out soon. So for Q4 in 25 and then Q1 in 26, most of the big product updates are going to be around design features and customization. We're in a time now, right, where it's like rapid change on the internet and we want to give creators making quizzes the tools to make their quizzes look like their brands as their brands are evolving. So it'll be things like changing out font sizes and button shapes and all that kind of good stuff to give you more of that experience that you would be familiar with if you're using a site like Show It, for example,
Mhm.
or Squarespace. So those are the big buckets that we're going after. In addition to our AI assistant, helping it to draw out more of what I'm talking about here, to kind of proactively prompt you as the creator of like, hey, are you thinking about these things? Have you done this research with your audience? If not, the AI can help assist with that and prompt you with the right questions
Mm.
to really dial in like the right framing for the quiz. So
Yeah,
those are the two big buckets that we're working on.
that's really exciting. So, where can everybody go to start using and creating their quiz on Interact?
Yeah, so the URL is tryinteract.com. It's free to sign up and actually build a quiz so you can see all the functionality, connect it up, make sure it actually works for you. And then you can start a paid trial, but doesn't actually charge you for 2 weeks after that. So you can use the quiz and see if it lands. And like I said, typically, if you've done all the research and all that, then 2 weeks is a lot of time where you'll see that it's working for you before you kick into a subscription, and then we do monthly or annual subscriptions after that. So that's where you can get started.
Amazing. Josh, it has been so fun to have you here. Obviously, what you've built is such a big part of my company. And so I so appreciate you and all that you guys do over at Interact. So thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. And likewise, we really appreciate partnership with folks like yourself.